Hi everybody, I'm Stacey with Stacey's Organizing and Decorating for Life. I am here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. So today our topic is going to be, is it a trauma bond or is it a love bond? So if you like that that's our topic today, please hit the like and subscribe button below. Before we get started, I want to thank all of you who have subscribed to this channel, those who have subscribed long ago, and those who have recently subscribed. I want you to know that I love and appreciate you very much. Okay, and then also I want to ask you all to look in the description box below to see what I am and I am not. I am a life coach, and if you need my services, then there's a way to connect to me down there. And the topics, the things that I talk about here, some of that will be listed below. I'm going to refer to a person, a coach that I have run into on this channel who's helped me a lot, because we're going to talk about narcissism, codependency, and this term called limerence. Some of you may be familiar with it, but some of you may be not. And if you're not familiar with it, I'm learning more and more about it through this lady who has a channel called The Crappy Childhood Fairy. So I encourage you to explore her channel and to figure this out. If you've had dating problems, male or female, if you've had dating problems and are feeling devalued, discarded, brokenhearted, and stupid, because that's all part of it, right? When we're having this happen, and we get brokenhearted, and it's just like we either heal and and expand, or we hurt and we constrict. So it's my goal on this channel to help us to continue to expand our consciousness, our knowledge, and to continue to live, love, learn, and grow, and deeply connect within our soul. So let's get started. Is it a love bond or a trauma bond? The trauma bond comes from CPTSD. So this is where the limerence comes in. She talks about CPTSD and limerence a whole lot. But let's talk about how this happens. If you're feeling, like I said, in these relationships this way, if you have felt like the fuck buddy and you didn't want to be just a fuck buddy, or if you felt like the side chick and it's caused you much pain, and you just kept wanting to be the main chick or dude, because I know that happens both ways. This isn't just for women. Or if you have felt like, the friends with benefits, and you really wanted that to grow, and it just never did. In fact, sometimes it gets worse. So, and then we end up heartbroken, right? Sometimes. But how this happens is oftentimes people are in narcissistic partnerships or have come from narcissistic families. And oftentimes people mention that their parents were a narcissist, and it's like, well, what have you done to heal from that? Because that certainly causes a low self-esteem when you don't feel seen, heard, or, that you have value. And that's what it is when we're in that narcissistic, system. And I'm going to say it like that because these videos aren't meant to be like us versus them, the narcissist. I've watched those type of videos. This is just to give us information how we can grow ourselves, and not be as heartbroken as we used to be. To go on this adventure through our souls to grow rather than constricted from the ego. Because the ego says, I already know this, and I don't need to learn more, because I'll talk to people about, well, what have you done to heal from this narcissism thing? And a lot of people just say, I don't want to be like that, and I totally get it, because I have done that, gone from one extreme to the other. I've gone to protecting myself to giving everything away, but how do we have a harmony? And harmony is created through boundaries, and those boundaries, a lot of times people think boundaries are just for other people, but sometimes those boundaries are for ourselves too, when we really know what we want and we need and we desire. So here we come into the narcissistic, the codependent, and the limerence relationships, because if we grew up with a narcissist, we learned narcissistic traits, because a lot of our behaviors growing up are learned behaviors. We model what we see with our parents. So oftentimes we saw a narcissistic parent. Say, in my case, it was an addict. My dad was an addict. He was addicted to drugs, sex, food, so he had extramarital affairs. He had extra women. And so I grew up, learning how to spot that and things like that. And our moms and, dads we expect them or want them to take care of us. They are our first gods, as I've mentioned in other videos. So, and in turn, we want to take care of them sometimes. And these can lead to codependent and enmeshed relationships, is because when our parents are struggling with this trauma, and we have no idea as children how to deal with trauma, we just want to take care. So this activates that codependency within us to make our parents feel better. Or it certainly teaches, we don't learn the correct coping skills. Our parents didn't have, in all fairness, our parents and their parents didn't have the resources that we have today to learn about these things. A lot of these labels and all of this wasn't even founded, back in the day. The codependency, no one knew about that when my mom was dealing with it, So society has encouraged this, as well as religions and things like this. And I'm not saying that it's not nice to help other people, because certainly we are supposed to be, in humanity and help other people. What I'm talking about is when we're hurting ourselves helping other people, when we think we're helping. So I learned in my codependency that when I would think I was helping people, I was actually just trying to get recognition. It was actually manipulation to get recognition. And that happens sometimes, because it is a learned behavior. I'm not saying anybody taught me that. I'm just saying that that's what I did, and I own that. So sometimes we feel like we just do stuff for people and they just don't seem to appreciate us, right? Or, and we make up these stories and these tapes in our heads, but the adventure to our self and soul is to be able to rewrite different stories. Like the stories that we look at, the shows that we watch, these adventures. We can change our own adventure by changing our thoughts, but first we need to heal and realize where it came from. I have a t-shirt that says awareness is the removal of obstacles. So when I say these things like narcissism, codependency, I'm not trying to label anything. I'm trying to label behaviors that we can heal from, because certainly I followed Daddy's footsteps and I was in my addiction, and I was certainly a narcissist in my addiction, but even in my codependency I was a narcissist by those thoughts and attitudes of thinking of that I could fix everybody else and not even taking care of myself, trying to get my value through fixing and helping everybody else. So hence it's that codependence. But then here comes limerence. Even if we've worked on our addiction, even if we've worked on our codependency, I too, even worked on that, have found limerence. Because when we've dealt with this narcissism, say that if we didn't know that a parent was narcissist or that their behaviors were narcissistic, maybe we've chosen a partner, because we typically model those same things, what we know and we're used to, from the ego, and the ego wants things right now. And that's our addiction too, right? We want it when we want it. We want it now. In the codependency, we devalue ourselves. So then we learn to do that. So we go from one end to the other once again. Well, in limerence is creating an illusion that things are going to be different. And it's really just living our same lives and tricking ourselves, going in and out of these partnerships, still waiting for that mom or dad to recognize us, when we didn't get that attention as a child, when we felt deprived as a child, thinking that somebody else is. And we either go from one extreme to the other oftentimes again, but finding harmony is to find ourselves and ourselves and our soul. Because if we're dealing with narcissists, and I have before, is that I got sick physically. It was mentally, because you have to learn certain things, in coping with a narcissist. And it really shuts down the person that you are, and you're being able to be open and explorative and joy-filled when you are living with narcissism. So, and if you don't want to be codependent and take that stuff on, and you are understanding that this is crazy making and all of this is going on, not everyone can leave at the certain, or feel sure enough of themselves. So anyway, I'm just saying that all of this has an effect on you. So then when somebody's nice to you later, and I mentioned last week in the video, well, at least they don't do this, well, at least they don't do that. Those are what we call rationalizations and justifications. But it's still demeaning to ourselves, it's belittling ourselves, just like the narcissist probably did to us. So we're doing this to ourselves and kind of crazy making ourselves into this illusionment. If you don't want to be, if you're fine with being somebody's secret, then this video, like I said, is not for you. But if you're not okay with being somebody's secret, if you feel your soul just saying, and you start crying, but then, the fun, the sex, or the attention is so good. I often recommend to people to wait 3 months to sleep with somebody. Even then it can be, result in limerence. But to try to not try to get into things too quickly, not to try to, do this too quickly. We all want love and to be loved, but first we have to love ourselves. And this limerence, it's crazy because we can do it. Sometimes I've heard on her channel that some people did it, who weren't actually in relationships with people. And I'm going to tell you how this happens. Don't think you're stupid or anything else, because Sam Varkin says he is a narcissist, and he has many narcissist videos, and he claims he's a narcissist. I'm not trying to say that anything bad about him, but he comes from a narcissist perspective, and he says that many people who are partnered with narcissists want to have affairs. Well, some people don't want to have the physical affairs, so they get fixations on celebrities. I did, Johnny Depp. They get fixations on people who are nice to them, who treat them a little bit better than the last person did. But maybe they're still a secret. Maybe they're still, in female terms, the side chick. Maybe there's still this. This is trauma relationships, y'all. This is trauma bonding. And it's not from that person that you're with right now or that you were with a month ago or whatever. When we heal from this, we're healing from that person, but we're healing from the person before them. And we're realizing that we are still being that child that wants that attention, and that we have to give ourselves that attention. And when we're craving and longing for these people who don't want us, when you're craving and longing for someone who doesn't want you, to be able to adult yourself and say, you are so worthy. And she also says, the crappy childhood fairy says, to have those friends in your lives that help you navigate and to be really in your head, and not to be in that longing, so that they can remind you that this person doesn't want you. This person hasn't displayed any behaviors that want you. In our codependency, what I'm learning about all these different things, these different behaviors and such, is that they sneak in little wormholes, is that you'll think you conquered this. And I have one friend that she says the whack-em thing, that we get into these things, the whack-em things that keep popping up, and so they just seem to creep in, and this limerence is crept in, and so when someone's nice to you after you've been treated mean, and you get that crush or you get this thing and you're just still unseen, it's time for us to look within, to see ourselves, and to realize our own value so we're not devalued. To realize, that we don't deserve to be a secret if we don't want to be a secret. To be known to ourselves and to be others. And how we have to do that is to uncover how we became that way, and to have those friends to help us grow and to remind us of who we are deep down in our soul, that we are so divine, and that we don't deserve to be hurt time and time again. So limerence is not really our friend, is what I'm saying. And sometimes we may think that these people who, I like the way that she does the stories on her channel. She, people actually write into her and tell her their own struggles, so that there may be a struggle that you particularly relate to or not, It's just a new term for me, while she's expanded it for quite a bit, and so she knows this term limerence. And what it is people describing, ways that they thought that they were loved and were loved by somebody else, when really she just breaks it down in a gentle way with her little fairy pencil and says, look, because it's often our fairy thoughts and magical thinking that gets us into these relationships, thinking that a trauma bond is a twin flame or a soulmate. And I've done it, and many people have done it, and thought that, somebody, and it's just not. It's just not if they don't have the same feelings for you. And you have to set that boundary with yourself, because as long as you're serving them, they're going to let you, Who wouldn't? I mean, really. So it's to have that boundary with yourself and to value yourself, because if we don't value ourselves, nobody else will value us. So again, check out the Crappy Childhood Fairy and Limerence. And I wish you much peace and love, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Thank you so much. Bye.